What's up? I'm Patrick and I'm trying to open a coffee shop, and each week I sit down in front of the camera and talk about coffee and what it's like running my small business. And today we're going to be talking about tariffs and why that might mean the end of this dream that I have to open a coffee shop. But before we jump into that, I need some coffee. It's been a long week. So this is a geisha from Guatemala that I only bought a very small amount of, so it's only going out to my Patreon/coffee subscription subscribers, members. So once it's gone, but it's really, really good. I love a good geisha. I don't buy geishas much as a roaster just because they're very expensive and they're very tea-like, so not everyone likes them, but I find them to be like such a nice little treat. It's really tasty and I hope you like it. Now, before we talk about tariffs, I actually want to talk about coffee prices because if you didn't know, coffee prices this year have been kind of insane. They've actually reached all-time highs as of, I think, February this year. And the graph that I'm showing here is actually called the C market, which is sort of like a stock market for coffee. And a good way to think about this is essentially the higher that price goes, the more expensive it is for roasters like me to buy the coffee and roast it. Now, there's a ton of articles and really good information about why the cost of coffee has gone up so much, and it's just been really steadily rising for the last several years. But essentially what we've been seeing is lots of volatility and price increases when it comes to coffee prices. And like most things, the small independent coffee roasters like myself, we are the ones who are hit the hardest by these sort of price spikes and volatility in the coffee market. So for example, a lot of large coffee roasters will buy coffee beans for a full year or have that planned out well in advance. They buy what's called futures, so they'll work with farmers to buy their future crops so that cost is a lot lower for them. But for small roasters like me, I'm like in my spare bedroom. You can see a bunch of coffee back there. And so I don't exactly have room to hold a full year's worth of coffee. And I don't have those relationships built up where I can buy tons of coffee in advance, which means roasters like me have to buy a lot more frequently throughout the year, which means we're impacted a lot more by these sort of big price spikes. We can't always wait for the price of coffee to drop. We sort of just have to buy at whatever price it is listed at. And we're already seeing the impact of these high coffee prices on small roasters like myself, with many of them trying to sell their coffee roasting businesses or going out of business entirely. A lot of this comes down to the struggle to get cash and keep up with the rising cost of coffee. And these tariffs are only going to further drive up the price of coffee, which is going to make this problem even worse. So this is just a bit of background to explain why these tariffs are so impactful for coffee roasters like myself. Like everything else these days, coffee is getting more expensive, and tariffs on top of that just mean it's going to cost even more for people like me to buy coffee and roast it. So what I wanted to do was understand what the actual impact of these tariffs would be on coffee and small businesses like myself. So I sat down with Onyx Coffee to try to understand the impact these tariffs are going to have. Hi there, how's it going? Could you guys just tell me a little bit about yourselves and what you do?
Yeah, my name's Cody. I'm a account executive here at Onyx Coffee. We import green Guatemalan coffee. We're a small green coffee importer and focus exclusively, I'll say, exclusively with Guatemala.
My name is Julio Bonza. I live in Guatemala, so I'm here in Guatemala permanently. I've been with Onyx for 9 years. I'm part of the sales team right now. I do a lot of hosting roasters, and I keep relationships with coffee producers here on the ground in Guatemala.
Awesome. Yeah, Julio, I know I've worked with you in the past. You've helped me find some really great coffee. And I know this is probably a very hectic week for both of you, so thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I just wanted to sort of get a general sense of the feeling that you guys have from sort of those working in coffee with the current environment around tariffs and trade war, I guess, essentially is kind of maybe the better term for it.
If I could, maybe start off with just a few key words. The first one would be uncertainty. And you could almost use that word as the theme for 2025 just in general. And I use that because, where we're at right now with, I don't want to say the potential because it seems as though, it's maintaining as a 10% universal tariff tax on import goods is one, how's it going to look? How's it going to be distributed? But then also there's just uncertainty about what they're going to be looking at or how they're going to bill it. I mean, there's conflicting bits of information out there. We're just waiting to see what it's going to look like whenever we kind of get hit with that first, I don't know, invoice, so to speak. So in terms of being able to provide a clear, like, this is what you can expect And really the challenge is that we just don't have a ton of information. And we didn't have any buildup either. I mean, it was just once we found out at the same time everybody else found out. And so we are, but today is Thursday. We are a full week in, and there's already been changing narratives and landscapes within that first week. We just haven't ever really dealt with this before.
And Julio, I guess on the ground in Guatemala, how are those conversations taking place? What does that look like for you?
Well, actually, it's the same for me. I mean, I've been making a lot of phone calls to roasters, and they're pretty much in the same situation. It's uh it's a lot of uncertainty, and until, just like Cody says, until we receive the first invoice, we will know how it's going to look like. But uncertainty, that's the right word for now. We don't know. We don't know yet.
So I guess just to give folks maybe who aren't familiar with the coffee supply chain, you all work to buy coffee from farmers and import it and make it available to folks like me who roast in the States or other places. From my understanding, the tariffs, that's the 10% tariffs sort of on the globally, would mean 10% increase on the cost that you pay, which means obviously the cost that I pay would probably go up by some similar amount, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's probably a fair summary. That it would be, that 10% on what the costs are. But again, yeah, we're we're really we're really uncertain up to this point. It's a pass-through rate in the sense of, what you are receiving is not, you know, above and beyond what is actually being, you know, charged upon entry in the US.
Not doing the the inflation card and raising it well above that. So appreciate that. Thank you guys.
Well, there's been some concern about that, and I think really it's just kind of, I want to say everybody's about to shock, like everybody's equally shocked about this, and it is, yeah, 100% just a pass through.
How are these tariffs potentially going to impact producers? Because I know currently the price of coffee is really skyrocketed this year, and I know it's come down slightly, but it's still much higher, I think, than most folks anticipated. And then on top of that, having this additional tariff, what impact do you think that's going to have at the producer level?
Well, for the first time in many years, the producers were really able to do well, and I think that's kind of, something that is, let's say, largely unknown in the industry. I know with specialty coffee, we've paid above and beyond the seed market. The seed market has never been our rate, but in some cases there are many producers who, even paying above the market was, in some of them, just kind of barely covering their cost. And so this is one of the, I would say, first years where producers were really in a position where they were able to, to do well. And I think for most in the specialty coffee industry, that's really what we have, wanted to highlight and celebrate. And would say that that was a good thing. The thing is that it happened in a very short amount of time, which is where maybe some of the pressure comes from, um, as you move from the producer into other areas of the supply chain. That was unexpected. Again, similar to tariffs, for many, there was no buildup or heads up that this was coming. It was just, it's here, and this is the reality we're faced with in this moment. And so, in terms of, what has happened since the tariffs were enacted, is that the C market did drop a little bit. The case could be made that, as a result of the tariffs, it could be possible that some producers may not, earn as much as they did before the tariffs, and so that could be a case that was argued in this situation. But ultimately, what we're seeing right now is again, uncertainty. What the long-term effect or what the effect is going to be on producers, we're just not sure yet. It's still too early. So I reserve the right in saying that I have no idea what this is going to do up and down the supply chain. We just know that it's just causing disruption right now.
And then how do you guys foresee tariffs impacting coffee roasters like myself, or maybe kind of larger coffee roasters as well as smaller coffee roasters?
At this point, it is going to increase prices, to a degree, and I guess really I would just ask you, Patrick, because I think you're going to be the expert on this. Is how do you see this? How do you see this impacting you?
I did notice I just recently bought some coffee from you guys. I'm drinking a geisha that you guys had on. I bought the last of it actually, so that was exciting. It's great and I'm really enjoying it. But I even the purchase that I made of a handful of coffees just a few weeks ago, you know, the price before the tariffs was like much higher than I would have expected it to be. I think for me, it's right now it's kind of eating that cost a little bit, and I don't quite feel ready to increase prices specifically on like bags that I sell to. I run like a subscription coffee business, and so that price will definitely stay the same. I don't plan to pass that on, but I am thinking about things like pop-ups and events that I do, raising prices on individual drinks, and I think a lot of that has to do with tariffs on China and not knowing if the cups that I usually buy are going to be the same cost or the bags that I buy are going to be the same cost. So that's kind of where I'm at now. But yeah, it's like you said, it feels very uncertain.
You know, some of what you're experiencing is not just an increase in green, but also an increase in, you know, the other parts of coffee, cups, bags, so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any sense of what the impact of these tariffs is going to have on coffee sort of more long term?
There's so many different ways we could go here. So I could just play a what if game, but I guess, unfortunately, Patrick, I actually don't know. I really don't know
Yeah.
what the long term effects are going to be. I think prices are going to go up. And I think one thing that we can probably guarantee is not just uncertainty, but maybe fluidity in the sense of there'll just be probably a consistent sense of volatility. And Patrick, I wish I could give you something more concrete besides I have no idea yet. I just don't know.
Yeah. Totally fair. Well, thank you guys again for sitting down and chatting with me. This is super helpful. Thanks again, guys. Take care. Okay, so what does this actually mean for my business? Well, the truth is I don't really know just yet, but to be totally frank, I'm not very optimistic and I'm pretty worried, truthfully. Not only is the cost of my like major good going up already, and then on top of that, there's a 10% tariff, but we only know that this is a pause for 90 days. So after 90 days, I have no idea what's gonna happen. It could go up more, or it could stay the same. I don't really know. And that's really hard to plan for. The other thing that I'm thinking a lot about is, you know, coffee, specifically specialty coffee, the kind of coffee that I deal with is really like a bit of a luxury for a lot of people. If these tariffs push us into a recession, that kind of spending I think is going to go down for a lot of people. And there's a ton of evidence, and I'm sure you've seen it everywhere, that like this really could mean a pretty tough economic time and potentially a recession. One thing I do know for sure is I was really hoping to take this coffee business full-time this year, and I think that that's really not possible currently. There's just way too much unknown and way too much, like I said, uncertainty and volatility to make this like my sole income, and that sucks. It was really great to sit down with Cody and Julio from Onyx. They were super helpful, even though we're kind of both in the same boat of not really knowing what this means. I think it was just helpful to like have somebody else to share that uncertainty with, and just kind of know that they aren't planning on raising prices more than what they have to, and I'm gonna do the same for you all. No hidden inflation. That shit sucks. And if you're curious about what it costs to run a business like this, I actually post my revenue and costs for each month in these monthly videos, as well as opportunity for Q&A. So if you have any questions for me about coffee, my personal life, whatever, really, just drop them in one of those videos and I'll answer them the following month. So could tariffs mean the end of my coffee business? Unfortunately, yeah, it might, especially if I didn't have sort of a 9-to-5 job bankrolling the whole thing. But for now, like that's gonna stay the case. So I'm not going anywhere. Prices may change a little bit. I'm just trying to keep my expenses down as much as possible and really just like get through this sort of uncertain time until we know what the next several years are going to look like a little bit more clearly. Might be a long 4 years, but I will be here updating you the whole time, kind of letting you know how things are going for me and my small little coffee business here. So anyway, that's all I've got for this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on Monday.